This is Coach Lee, and you're listening to the Dore Report.
Welcome back into the Dore Report. We forgot to light up the V behind us. Welcome back into the Dore Report and welcome into episode 356 as the V behind us lights up. I am Will Byrum. I think I usually say the date before that, threw off my rhythm completely. It is Wednesday, March 4th, 2026, a lovely Wednesday. March 4th, 2026. I'm Will Byrum, joined as always by my co-host, Trevor Hulan, a.k.a. Hack Squad. Jim Duggan here at the Dore Report. We are presented by 615 Collectibles. If you're into sports cards or sports memorabilia, check out 615 Collectibles on eBay. Items include NFL team packs, graded cards, individual cards, and more. Shipping is right now still fast and free. Little birdie told me we'll see. We'll see if shipping continues to be fast. Well, it will continue to be fast. We'll see if it continues to be free. I'm going to attempt to save the ad reads until we go over the rest of the ad reads until we go over the content of this episode in the intro. A little change up.
Okay. All right.
We'll see how
it
it goes. We'll see. But I feel like it's too many ads right at the beginning, just in your face.
Yeah.
But here on episode 356, we have quite a bit to get into. Me and Trevor are both pretty damn tired right now. Life is kicking both of our asses. I don't want to speak for Trevor.
No, it's life is having its way with me right now.
But we have a lot to get to. So we're going to try to keep this episode short, but knowing us and knowing me, that means absolutely nothing at the beginning of this episode. But we have some football to get to, some unfortunate news with some Vanderbilt freshmen dismissed from the program. We will go into that just a little bit. Then Pavia and Stowers' performances at the Combine, and kind of where we're seeing those guys projected out, mocked out right now, very early with the draft still about a month and a half away. Then we have women's basketball to get to, of course, the women's college basketball. Words are tough today. Regular season is now concluded. Vanderbilt women's basketball finished up 27-3, 13-3 in the SEC. We will dive into those games just a little bit, as well as how damn good Michaela Blakes is.
Yeah, man, what a hooper.
Incredible. Then we will go into men's basketball, 3 games to recap. So I don't know if we'll go into full depth into all of these games, but I'm sure we have a lot of thoughts about where this basketball team is right now. And then we have one more game remaining in the regular season for men's basketball. Of course, that is Vanderbilt traveling on the road to Knoxville. We will look into that game a little bit. I won't say do a deep dive. And then we have some baseball to cover. Not the best performances on the diamond recently for Tim Corbin and the VandyBoys. Trevor, a lot to get to. That was a lot just to read off, just topic-wise. But what's the vibe check right now? Last week, I think you dropped it significantly.
Yeah, last week, I think we were at like a 2.5 or a 3.5, somewhere in that ballpark. Vibes have gone up a little bit. Like I said, basketball finally back in the win column. Big game this weekend. Baseball significantly lowering that rating. However, women's basketball bumping it up a ton. I'm going to go 7 flat out of 10. Really, really loving what I'm seeing out of the women. I've actually started like sitting down and like, now I know it's the regular season over in the SEC tournament, but like as of late, like dedicating my time to watching Vanderbilt women's basketball. I've been carving time out of my schedule to do so. They're hooping, man.
Incredible what they are doing, to be honest. But that's it for the intro. Let's dive into those ad reads I talked about here. Rhoback Activewear. There is only one way to describe Rhoback. Best fit, best feel. For those who aren't familiar with Rhoback, they are completely changing the game with their incredibly comfortable activewear. Rhoback has released so many items within their newly licensed game day collection, and it's our favorite. With novel polo designs and clean hoodie and quarter zip designs for some of your favorite schools, it's definitely worth checking out. Nobody else in the market is pairing these levels of custom designs with this quality of activewear, are they, Phoebe? Rhoback's everyday shorts or their Delta performance pants are the perfect pairing as well. They are both super comfortable, have an elastic waistband and great fabric that is made to have the appearance of a nice short look, but the comfort for a day on the move. on the move. Roebuck has also been proudly leading the NIL charge, having signed partnerships with multiple college football stars, both past and present, and are becoming the go-to brand for college athletes across the country. You can use code VAN20, that is VAN20, all capital letters, no spaces, on Roebuck.com for a generous 20% off for all new customers. That's spelled Roebuck, ROBACK.com. That's 20% off all performance polos, shorts, and more with code VAN20. Now we have the NIL store, NIL.store. Shop merch and gear from your favorite Vanderbilt student athletes. Visit NIL.store/DoreReport15 and use code DoreReport15, all capital letters, no spaces, for 15% off your first order. Check out NIL.store today. Any last thoughts in the intro before we transition into segment one here?
Speaking about one of our sponsors, I absolutely love the throwback script jerseys that the NIL shop has rolled out. I'm thinking about getting one.
I really like the script jerseys as well. But it's time to dive into what we discussed in the intro. Before we get into segment one, we are now a part of the On3 Publisher Network. Visit thedoreport.com today and subscribe to a monthly or annual premium membership and support TDR for access to premium content, as well as our premium message board behind closed doors. Also, don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Dore Report. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Our podcast is available on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and Google Podcasts. And while you're at it, give our podcast 5 stars and review on iTunes or Spotify. It's now time for segment one. Welcome back into episode 356 of the Dore Report, and welcome into segment one. To start off, like we've been doing the last few episodes, some quick football news. Not on the positive side of things. To start, 3 Vanderbilt freshmen have been dismissed from the program. 3/4-star cornerback Colin Flanagan, another top 500 player, a 3/4-star Chris Tangelo, and then a 3-star safety Antoine Baker. All have been dismissed from the program. Not going to dive deep into that as of now. Not a lot of information out there. It's unfortunate, especially. I'm not going into what any of it is. There's not a lot of information out there, but Colin Flanagan and Chris Tangelo are very talented players, top 500 players nationally. It's tough losses for this Vanderbilt freshman class that was pretty talented.
Mm-hmm.
But that's it on that front. We're not going to dive into that more.
Yeah.
Until more information is out there. And that's the gist of it. It's not that wouldn't dive into it more, just there's not a lot of information out there about it. Next up is Diego Pavia and Eli Stowers at the NFL Combine.
Yeah.
We'll start with the one that we'll talk about less, which is a little bit, I wouldn't say surprising if you really follow this closely, but the first one that's actually getting a lot less attention from his pro day results is Diego Pavia.
Yeah.
Pavia was good. You said he opted out of like the 40. He only participated in the throwing drills. Yeah. Basically did a nice backflip on the field. I thought the reviews from scouts about his throwing, I mean, that was a concern. The height's still a concern, and that is the main concern. But all the feedback I saw was he did well in the throwing drills. Maybe a little bit more zip on some of the things would have been nice, but the deep ball was nice. Everything I saw was pretty positive about Pavia's performance.
Yeah, he only did himself favors at the Combine this past week. Really impressed with what we saw in the throwing drills. I'm very interested to see his results from the Vanderbilt Pro Day. I think that'll be really interesting once he does all the drills.
Yeah, with Pavia, I'm curious to ask you this question. Right now, and there's a lot of time till the draft. The NFL draft is not till the 23rd of April, April 23rd through the 25th. Do you think right now Diego Pavia is going to be drafted, or do you think he's going to be an undrafted free agent guy? And I'll give you a second before you decide on your answer, because all this stuff is great. His performance throwing the football, fantastic, all of that. He measured at 5'10", 207 pounds, I believe, at the NFL Combine. So 1/8 of an inch taller than what he measured at the Senior Bowl, and about 9 pounds heavier than what he weighed in at the Senior Bowl. The issue that he cannot change is how far the top of his head is from the ground. And doing Diego Pavia no favors are the results of recently both Bryce Young and Kyler Murray being drafted, and both of those being unsuccessful experiments. Kyler Murray released either today or yesterday from the Cardinals after signing a huge deal relatively recently. When was that he signed that massive
couple of years
deal?
ago?
Yeah. And then Bryce Young has not worked out in Carolina. So you have guys that you can point back to, and those will be the guys that are examples used of Drew Brees, or even you can throw in Russell Wilson or someone like
Baker.
that. But those are the exceptions that prove the rule. And Baker, I would even
he's a little bit taller.
Yeah, I think Baker's like a real 6'1".
Yeah.
Versus Russell Wilson, I think is probably more like actually 5'11". I think that's what he's listed at. So you have examples, but that's going to be the issue with Diego Pavia's draft stock. All this other stuff, it's like what was being talked about after the Heisman Trophy was, he's tanked his draft stock. I was like, his draft stock was tanked the moment they pull out a measuring tape, the moment he gets to a combine and he's officially measured. And that's what's happened. So he's done well, I think, so far in the circuit of the draft combine. That's what you could call it. It's a circuit and it is a circus. But right now, do you think Diego is going to be, if you had to place your money on one side, where would you put it?
I don't think he gets drafted.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
I would probably put the odds at like -190, -210 that he's not going to be drafted. It's not that it's an impossibility with quarterbacks and these late round flyers, especially when you hit 5th, 6th, 7th rounds. It just takes one team falling in love with the potential of what Diego Pavia could be or what he could bring to the locker room. So it's not an impossibility. And I think he has what he has on tape. He's done well so far in the draft combine process and in that process as a whole, but there's only so much you can do about your height, your weight, and your hand size. And that's where he's sitting right now.
Yeah. And I think too, whenever you get to like the late 4th, the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, our team's going to look at Diego Pavia and be like, okay, the reward outweighs the risk.
That's what the ultimate question is going to. It just takes one team.
Yeah, just to take a flyer to look at their team, like where their team's at, like their draft class thus far, and saying like, okay, like this pick is sort of expendable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And I think he will be a guy regardless that is one of those first guys signed to a rookie undrafted free agent deal. Yeah. I think he will be brought in somewhere. I don't think there's a doubt he'll get a shot. Now, what will that look like? It's very up in the air.
Yeah.
Moving on to Eli Stowers. The guy that you could say took over the headlines of an entire day of the scouting combine. And that includes a guy at his same position that was also an absolute freak in Kenyon Sadiq.
Yep.
Out of Oregon. 2 tight ends in this class that are true freaks in Sadiq and Stowers. Stowers set the record. So officially height and weight, Stowers 6'3 3/4", 239 pounds, ran a 4.51 40-yard dash. That was tied for second amongst tight ends. That is the least impressive of the stats that Stowers put out. Also, his vertical jump was 45.5 inches. First among tight ends, I think by 2 full inches. I could be wrong on that. And then set the record at the tight end position for the broad jump at the NFL Combine. 11'3". Is that 3?
Yeah, 11 feet, 3 inches.
First among tight ends, set the record for tight ends. He's done what we talked about in the previous couple episodes, that he may have played himself or gone through this process and made himself into a late first-round draft pick now.
Yeah.
I think there's no doubt in my mind now that he's going to be a first 2-round draft pick.
Yeah, exactly.
That is what he's secured a top 64 pick, which at one point that was exactly, or maybe it was just rumors. That was rumored. That's what Stowers wanted. He would have thought about returning had he not been a top 64 round pick or 64 pick. Well, now he's going to be.
Yep.
There is no doubt a team is going to pick him. Yeah, in the first 2 rounds. I mean, what a performance from Eli Stowers.
Yeah, dude, watching him and like I was over at my parents' house Friday night, like watching the combine with my dad. And whenever it was Eli's turn to run the 40, I was like, man, if he could get like under a 4.55, I'd be really happy. Like if he could run a 4.55 or less, I think that I would be ecstatic for him. And on both tries, he ran it twice. Both tries 4.51. So I don't know if anybody did themselves more favors than Eli Stowers during the combine.
So one of the biggest physical freaks, this is a graphic that was going around, one of the biggest physical freaks in all of the NFL is wide receiver DK Metcalf.
I loved that graphic.
This is a great graphic. Now, I will start this out with the stat or combine metric that was left off this graphic, which is the 40-yard dash, which DK Metcalf ran a 4.33.
Yeah.
Which, holy shit.
At that size.
Eli Stowers, of course, ran a 4.51. That 0.18 is a big difference.
Yeah.
So that's a caveat. But DK Metcalf is 6'3", 3/8 inches. Eli Stowers taller, 6'3", 3/4 inches. DK Metcalf weighs 228. Eli Stowers 239. Vertical. This is the craziest. DK Metcalf had a vert of 40.5 inches. Eli Stowers cleared that by 5 inches.
Yeah.
45.5 inches. Broad jump. Eli Stowers cleared it by an inch. 11.3. DK's was 11.2.
That's amazing.
Eli Stowers, regardless of people can be like, oh, he's more of a wide receiver. He's a flex tight end. He's not even a true tight end. It's like, whatever. He's going to be a playmaker for whoever drafts him. He can put on 10, 15, 20 pounds and help out. You can't teach the fluidity he runs routes, the effortlessness that he catches the ball with, and the natural athleticism that he has. And it's in the genes. I mean, his sister's a dominant volleyball player as well. I think for Texas A&M, right?
Yeah, I believe. And then his mom and dad, I believe, were both athletes.
Yeah, he's just – Stowers is even more of a freak. I already thought he was a freak.
Yeah.
He's more of a freak than I expected him to measure out as. So great showing from Vanderbilt athletes at the scouting combine. It's been a while since we've had this to discuss, and it's nice to actually talk about this with Vanderbilt athletes on the board. Anything else you want to add on football before we move on?
Dude, just, man, how awesome would it be if he won the first round?
Oh, dude.
Like, if a team fell in love with him.
When was the last first-round pick Vanderbilt had? Because Dio was a second-round pick.
Chris Williams?
It was 08.
I think it was Chris Williams in 08.
Okay, that's not right, AI. Not Enrique Bradfield.
Because J-Matt wasn't a first. He was the first pick.
Chris Williams.
Chris Williams. Okay.
Yep, because you're right. J-Matt was the Eagle. Yep.
Yep, the Eagles had the first pick in the second round. They took him.
That would be almost a 2-decade streak broken. 18 years if Stowers can be picked in the first round. We will see. But he's done about everything he possibly can.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
Next up, women's basketball. Women's basketball has closed out the regular season. The Vanderbilt Commodores have gone 27-3, 13-3 in the SEC. I believe they're the 4 seed in the tournament or the 3 seed.
4.
I think they're tied at 3rd in the SEC standings, but
because I think it's
I can't find my
South Carolina, LSU, and Texas are ahead of them. I think those are the top 3 seeds.
No, they're 3rd. Yeah. South Carolina is number 1. Texas and Vandy are tied at 13-3 in conference, and then LSU is 12-4.
Okay. All right. I was wrong.
So I saw something different than that, but that was obviously incorrect. So Vanderbilt, a 3 seed in the SEC tournament. Vanderbilt also swept the awards for the SEC season.
Dude.
Complete clean sweep. SEC Freshman of the Year, Aubrey Galvin. SEC Player of the Year, Michaela Blakes. SEC Coach of the Year, Shea Ralph. Incredible.
Yeah.
Like, just an incredible season overall. Closed out the season with an 85-60 victory over number 24 Alabama and an 87-77 victory on the road against the Lady Vols. Michaela Blakes dropped 35 and 34 in those games. Or was it 35 in both? Either way.
Yes.
30-plus points in both games. Michaela Blakes is incredible.
Yeah.
Like, she is... Phoebe, don't bite me. I know you're jealous. I'm giving compliments to another woman. Michaela Blakes is truly, like, I've said it before. I'm not the biggest women's basketball fan. Michaela Blakes is a level that's like, if you like basketball, you can appreciate Michaela Blakes.
Yeah.
Like, what she did during that Tennessee game was incredible.
Question for you. And I think it was the homie Brett DeLawyer posted this on Twitter. And I want to pose this question to you. Is Shea Ralph the best coach in all of Vanderbilt athletics right now?
Right now, yes.
Yeah.
There was another question posed by our chef that was not the best question that he's ever posed. But it was, what does she have to do to be the best coach in the history of Vanderbilt? And the answer to that was simple. It was win 2 national championships. That would do it. But yeah, right now, I think it's undeniable that Shea Ralph is the best coach across Vanderbilt athletics. And that's not throwing shade at what Clark Lee just did.
No.
At all.
No, none whatsoever.
I mean, Shea Ralph has this program. They are a legitimate national title contender in women's basketball is a brutal phrase to use because to me, there's like 3 teams that can win it this season.
Would you even say 3 or would you just say 2 in South Carolina and UConn?
UCLA, I'll throw them in for the argument's sake.
Yeah.
But really 2 teams. But they're a top 5 program in the country right now.
Yeah.
And where they are sitting with the eligibility left for Aubrey Galvin and Michaela Blakes, this ain't the end of it.
No.
I mean, it's different than if this was the exact case in men's college basketball. These guys are going pro, obviously. But that's not going to happen in the women's game because they can make basically the same amount in college. So that's why I would say Shea Ralph. But what I do pause for a second because it's easy to just be like, yeah, of course. However, Clark Lee also did something unprecedented.
Whenever you put into the historical context of Vanderbilt football, that's like I'd give a slight edge to Shea Ralph, but like I said, whenever you put in the cultural context of Vanderbilt football, it's hard not to still say Clark.
You could make an argument that last season, I'm not meaning to exaggerate things. You could make an argument that last season was, when you encompass it all, recruiting, everything, implementation, putting the staff together, that last year might have been the best coaching job. You could make an argument in the history of college athletics across the board. When you're talking about historic success of a program, what you were able to do after not having initial success, like you can make that argument for taking Vanderbilt to 10-2 in the SEC. That was maybe the greatest coaching performance.
Can I ask you another question?
Of course, you have Signetti.
Staying on football, I don't want to take away from the women. Was last year's 10-2 season the most impressive season in Vanderbilt athletics history, including going up against Corbin's 2 national titles? Was what Clark Lee and company did last year more impressive than those 2 national titles? I have an easy answer.
Impressive?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's my answer.
Because everything is stacked against you. I mean, and that's not dismissing. Like Corbin's accomplishments with the national championships are obviously a way higher level, but it's like baseball was a lot more of an achievable target in some ways. The money, like Clark Lee had to moneyball the system as well as get incredible investment from the university. Both. Like, I don't know. What was done last season, I just want to keep emphasizing. I'm hoping it's not a blip. That's not what I mean. But we're going to look back and appreciate it even more than we appreciate it now. Vanderbilt fans will.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that everybody soaked in last season. Because my God, it was a fun ride.
Yep.
But not meaning to take away anything from the women's basketball team. Is the SEC women's tournament going on right now?
Yes, it started today. Kentucky. I was joking about it with our assistant to the producer, Miller. The Kentucky women's team had a 10:30 tip-off this morning.
Jesus.
Is that not insane?
Oh, Vanderbilt's the 2 seed. They have the tiebreak over Texas. I'm looking at the bracket right now.
So the number 1 South Carolina. I don't know what I saw then.
Yeah. I must have seen. I may have seen like a projected out bracket that was incorrect. Okay.
I'm not sure what I saw.
We will keep updated on Twitter and on the board. Alex and Colin have been doing an incredible job with the women's basketball threads as well as the baseball threads. So that will continue. They've done an incredible job.
Yeah.
Okay, there's just so much going on. They've helped so much with TDR's coverage. It's phenomenal. Moving on to men's basketball. This is where things get a little more interesting with the debate and discussion. Men's basketball, 3 games to recap. I'll run through the scores really quickly. Vanderbilt beat Georgia on the 25th of February, the day after we recorded episode 355, 88-80. That was senior night. Then Vanderbilt went on the road to Kentucky. The final score doesn't do it justice. Got dominated 91-77, but it was much worse than a 14-point game. Kentucky controlled that thing from start to finish. And then you have Ole Miss, which we had the pleasure of watching together last night.
Yes. What
a painful 89-86 overtime victory. So since we last recorded, Vanderbilt has gone 2-1. And they had lost 2 games going into last episode. So in some ways they have turned it around. Some ways not so much. I don't know if I'm obviously more positive than I would be if they would have lost both the Georgia and the Ole Miss games.
Yeah. Or just lost the Ole Miss game. Yeah.
But the problems are still there, exactly like we discussed last episode. And if anything, new problems have emerged in some ways. Because now some of these teams like Georgia and Ole Miss are not to the quality of some of the opponents that Vanderbilt has played. But in the Georgia game, Vanderbilt dominated Georgia in the paint.
Mm-hmm.
Something that we talked about last episode. That's where Vanderbilt struggles.
Yeah.
Is in the paint. Vanderbilt outscored Georgia 44-26 in the paint. Vanderbilt out-rebounded Georgia 36-29. Glock had a double-double. So all of a sudden, that's not what the problem was. Now it seems to be consistent scoring from the outside. Is what the problem is all of a sudden. Against Kentucky, like I said, just dominated start to finish. And against Ole Miss, it was basically Tyler Tanner putting the team on his back.
Yep.
To a large extent.
He won that game single-handedly.
Yeah, Tyler Tanner had 34 points, including 2 and 1s in the first 2 minutes of the overtime period. He had, I think, 7 assists. He should have had about 15 assists.
Yep.
The way he set up Vanderbilt shooters, just the shots were not falling. Vanderbilt out-rebounded. Ole Miss, again, capitalized on turnovers. Unlike Ole Miss, they had a crazy differential. I don't have it written down in front of me in points off turnovers. Interesting. I don't know. Vanderbilt is stumbling going down this stretch.
Yes.
I don't think that that's deniable in any way. There is one particular player that Vanderbilt needs to get going, and I think it would resolve a lot of the problems.
It's Tyler Nickel.
And it's Tyler Nickel.
Yeah.
I'm going to run through, just because I think it will be good to run through Tyler Tanner's previous 4/5 games shooting the basketball. And did I just say Tyler Tanner?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Tyler Nickel shooting the too many Tylers. Tyler Nickel. Thank God Tyler Harris is not seeing the court.
Thank God we can mark one Tyler off our list.
But Tyler Nickel, let's run through his stats from the previous 4/5 games. Against Missouri 5 games ago, 3 of 9. Then Tennessee 1 of 6. Then Georgia 1 of 8. Then Kentucky 3 of 12. Then Ole Miss 1 of 7. That is from behind the 3-point line, which of course Tyler Nickel is a 3-point specialist. In the previous 4 games, after I just read off the previous 5, Tyler Nickel is 6 of 33. That is 18% from behind the arc. In his last 5 games, Tyler Nickel is 9 of 41. This is a guy that was shooting 44.2% from behind the 3-point line before that stretch. That's a huge missing piece of this offense that I think is causing a lot of these problems. And he's just in a slump. He had some good looks, especially in that Ole Miss game, and he hit a key one late in overtime. So shout out to him for keep firing up. There's not an answer. Just keep shooting the ball.
Yeah, I agree.
That's my message here is Tyler Nickel, especially in this Tennessee game, especially in the SEC tournament. I don't care if you are 0 for 10. If you are open for the next one, go 0 for 11.
Yep.
Go 0 for 12. Now, if you get it, once Vanderbilt's in the NCAA tournament, if you start out 0 for 5, maybe decide it's not your day. But until then, keep shooting the ball. And honestly, even in the NCAA tournament game, just keep shooting the ball. If Vanderbilt loses with Tyler Nickel missing relatively open 3-point shots, I'm fine with Vanderbilt basketball losing that one.
I'm right there with you.
There are many other ways, overpassing, driving in, shooting chaotic shots, Chandler being open threes that I'm not fine with losing that one.
Yeah.
But Tyler Nickel, I'm okay with losing if he's just off. He's going to get it going again. I'm very confident. I want to clip this once he has a game in the next 2 to 3 games where he's on. He's just got to keep shooting.
His career sample size is just, there's too much data points to indicate that this guy is an elite 3-point shooter. And it's like you said, man, he's just going through a slump. And I don't know which game I tweeted it, but like one of the games he's been in a slump. And it's like, dude, you just got to force feed the guy. Like, it seems counterintuitive to winning basketball with the way he's shooting right now. But like, you have to force feed him, because if he snaps out of it and he can get his shot going, this Vanderbilt team becomes a very, very dangerous Vanderbilt team once again.
Yep. And there's not an answer to that. That's why basketball is a very frustrating sport.
Yeah.
In the same way baseball is a very frustrating sport, when you're like, this guy, everything's right with the swing. He's just in a slump. It's very similar to that with a shooter. Everything mechanically is the exact same, doing everything the exact same. In practice, he's still going 24 or 25 through shooting drills at all the spots, and just once game time hits, just off. Yeah. So that would change a lot if Tyler Nickel can get going again. Duke Miles seems to be getting relatively back into the flow of things. Nice to see him getting back into rhythm. Still at times not quite there. I think he's about 80-90% there.
Yeah,
Duke Miles
there's still some rust we're having to scrub off.
a little bit. Devin McLaughlin played well in the Georgia game. Did not particularly, if my memory is not failing me, he struggled with foul trouble in the Ole Miss game.
Which not just the Ole Miss game, but like Devin McLaughlin, how many games has he fouled out this year?
A lot.
And like constantly in foul trouble. And like I love Devin McLaughlin. I love the hustle. I love the motor he plays with. But like, and I don't want to simply limit it to Devin McLaughlin because like I think you see Duke Miles do a lot of the same things, unfortunately. But like just dumb fouls, like 85 feet away from the basket. And it's like, what are we doing, man? Like Devin McLaughlin is way, way, way too valuable to this basketball team to be putting himself in non-advantageous positions.
When Devin McLaughlin plays well, this team wins basketball games.
Yeah.
A lot. And in the Kentucky game, McLaughlin fouled out, had 0 points on 0 for 2 shooting. He also fouled out, and they did win the Ole Miss game, of course, but it was a struggle. McLaughlin had 4 points, fouled out of the game.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt had all their big men foul out during the Ole Miss game. Jalen Washington, Devin McLaughlin, and if you classify him as a big man, he's kind of everything, A.K.O. Cherokee.
Yeah.
All fouled out. So Jaden Leverett had a key role in that Ole Miss.
Gosh.
I do want to shout him out specifically. I know we're not going deep into each game because there's 3, but in overtime, Ole Miss was at the free throw line down 2 points. Camerdine, I think, was at the free throw line.
Yeah.
Hit the first one, made it a 1-point ball game. He missed the second. Jaden Leverett pulled the rebound and got a timeout off before Ole Miss was able to foul him.
Yep.
Chris Beard was furious.
Yeah.
But an incredibly intelligent play by a freshman big man in Jaden Leverett.
That was one of the most high IQ basketball plays I've ever seen.
And then Vanderbilt got the ball in bounds, and they got it to Tyler Tanner, who's an 85+% free throw shooter.
Mhm.
Incredible play by Leverett that kind of won him the game. Those are the kind of small plays that win you games in crunch time. So 2 of the freshmen in Chandler Bing and Leverett, and I know Leverett has a lot of development in front of him. So does Chandler Bing. Chandler Bing has a lot of development. Leverett's even further behind. But I'm impressed by those 2 guys, these freshmen, and stepping in key situations throughout the season unexpectedly.
Yeah.
When you would have projected this roster out before the season, when you still had Frankie Collins on it and you still had Mason Nicholson on it, you didn't expect those guys to see the court. And they're playing key overtime minutes consistently and key late game minutes relatively consistently. That feels like a good transition to say Frankie Collins. There's been a lot of speculation about Vanderbilt point guard Frankie Collins, TCU transfer, a lot of schools in 4 years, 4 high schools in 4 years, a lot of schools in 5 years of college basketball so far. Is that right? Frankie Collins, according to Mark Byington, no longer with the Vanderbilt basketball program. So all of those rumors were correct.
Yeah, and I want to take this time. My guy on the board, I believe it's just Vandy fan. I tip my cap to you, brother. You got me on that one. It takes a big man to admit when he was wrong. You were on it. You got me.
Takes a big man to admit his mistakes.
Yeah.
Hack Squad is that big man.
So I don't want to get the username wrong, but I believe it's just Vandy fan. Shout out to you.
It's what my gut feeling was, and we talked about it. I'm not trying to say this isn't the best thing that I was like, I bit my tongue a little bit on the 20 to 25% chance I was wrong and how bad of a look that would have been. But my gut feeling and our gut feeling was that was going to be an eventuality. You even said it that if we didn't see him, I think it was like 3 episodes ago.
I think it was the
Auburn
game.
Yeah.
I said, if you don't see him for Auburn, you're not going to see him.
And I said, extend that out to Saturday, which I think was the Oklahoma game at the time. And he didn't play in either of those games. So you kind of knew where me and Trevor sat on that. But there was that small part of us that was like, well, maybe he is dealing with some, but that's not the case.
The Instagram post of him in the Huber Center getting his knee looked at was just blue balls at its finest.
Yeah, because I will say, I'm not trying to connect it to this. I'm not a college athlete. I will say, I went to an orthopedic place today. I'm having knee problems. It's tough. That's the part that's tough to balance when you don't have a lot of transparency in college sports regarding injuries, is you don't want to attack a guy because even if it is 9 Frankie Collins situations for every 1 that is a true guy that's struggling to rehab from an injury, that's brutal to attack the 1 out of 10.
Yeah.
That's just struggling. And he's like, man, I just can't get the knee right. They might have to go in and do a second cleanup. Like, that's tough. So
it's a bad
shout
position
out
to
to
put
the people
yourself
on the
in.
board that were correct.
Yeah,
on that.
Absolutely.
At this point, this Vanderbilt basketball team is this Vanderbilt basketball team without Frankie Collins, and I'm just happy we don't have to talk about it every single week at this point.
I jokingly said in the group chat, not jokingly, it actually was being 110% serious. This feels like my personal liberation day because, and shout out to the homie Braden McPherson. He sits right beside me at Vanderbilt basketball games, and he always loves to poke and prod me. He'll sit down, he'll be like, Frankie on the team. And he knows that I'm just sick and tired of talking about Frankie Collins, and he'll just get that little shit-eating smirk and just kind of poke me a little bit. So I'm glad Frankie Collins is off the team. As Kodak Black once said, somebody call a vet. My dog turned out to be a rat. Frankie Collins was a rat.
It's the best way to close out that news. We've recapped the 3 games, kind of recapped them. If you want full recaps, you can go read my recaps on thedoreport.com. Been writing those late at night, so might be some interesting tidbits in there. Next up, the stats I like to go over. So AP, KenPom, net, where Vanderbilt set during last episode, where they're sitting now. Vanderbilt actually moved up from 25th in the AP poll to 24th. Which I was a little surprised by.
I was not a little surprised. I was dumbfounded.
Yeah, a home, and that's released on Mondays. So a home victory by the skin of your teeth against an unranked Georgia team, and a dominant loss, and it was on the road in Rupp against Kentucky, and Vanderbilt moved up a spot. Now, a lot of that probably has to do with what happened in front of them. But
still,
in KenPom, Vanderbilt moved from 13th to 15th. In the NCAA net, Vanderbilt moved from 17th to 16th. So the analytics do not like what Vanderbilt has been doing recently, per KenPom. However, they have won some of those games. So the AP voters and the net, who got, what are you?
I'm like having like an episode of psychosis. I feel like I'm hearing things.
I think the speaker on the TV is still very low volume on. So we will turn that off during the TDR.
Okay, sorry. Like I was like, am I experiencing psychosis right now? Did you see me like just start looking around?
But what I was gonna say is I think the AP and the net, Vanderbilt moving up, and the analytics and KenPom moving Vanderbilt down is the perfect example of what basketball we've watched the last 3 games.
Yeah.
Has Vanderbilt gone 2-1? Yes. Has it been a positive feeling 2-1 that Vanderbilt's got it turned around? No. So you've won 2 games. I'll take the ugliest victories over the prettiest losses any day of the week. You went 2-1. Good job. Vanderbilt's got to pick it up.
Yeah.
It's March now. They've got to play a lot better basketball. Tyler Nickel needs to get going. Duke Miles needs to shake off the 20% rush that he's got going on. Glock needs to figure out how to stay out of foul trouble. Jalen Washington needs to continue / be more physical in the paint. AK Okereke honestly just needs to do what he's doing.
Yeah. I have no complaints about AK.
Tyler Tanner, just keep doing what you're doing. Chandler Bing, honestly, shoot the ball better, but keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, and if Tyler,
Mike James get healthy.
Yeah. Tyler,
did you see that photo that Joey Dwyer posted of him on the bench
No.
where he had the flu? Dude, he looked like he was dying. I don't know why he traveled with the team with flu, but Joey Dwyer took a photo of him pregame, and he looked like he needed to be hospitalized.
If Tyler Harrison, it's way too late in the season, and he's completely out of the rotation at this point.
Yeah.
Played for like a millisecond in the Ole Miss game, just for like rotational subs.
And it was like at the very end of the game,
Yeah.
whenever they were trying to like defend the inbound.
If he could be the key piece to this, I think it's too late. We've said this all season. Like, he could be the difference maker in having a true scorer come off the bench.
Yeah.
And that just hasn't materialized. So he's out of the rotation at this point, is what it is.
Yeah.
Mike James getting healthy might be more important than that. Coming up for Vanderbilt basketball, they travel on the road to close out the regular season at Tennessee in Thompson Bowling on March 7th. Saturday at 1 p.m. televised on ESPN. Will Nate Ament play?
I think probably
so. He missed the last game for Tennessee. That's the big question going into
Can I
this.
ask you a question in terms of seeding? So if Vanderbilt gets a win on Saturday and they go 3-1 in this stretch, I think Vanderbilt has confidently, with last night's victory, locked themselves up for a worst of 5 seed.
Yeah, I know you're a little bit more iffy.
I agree with you, but it's one of those that has a few more caveats of what teams do around them. And if they close the season 0-2, there is a chance they could fall to a 6. But at worst, they've locked themselves, in my mind, at a 6 seed. At the worst.
If Vanderbilt can go into the Food Lion, Food City, Aldi Center and get a win and go 3-1 in this stretch, how do you feel about Vanderbilt as a potential 4 seed with going 3-1 in this stretch? Because I was saying going into these last 4 games, I felt confident that Vanderbilt was going to probably be a 5 seed if they finished 2-2. I did say if they could go 3-1. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but there's a possibility that Vanderbilt could still grab that 4 seed.
Possibility. Yes, but I think they would have to. I know it's not something that's factored in heavily. I don't think just the Tennessee win would get it done for them.
Okay.
I think they would also have to win 1 or 2 games in the SEC tournament. And like I said, so right now, according to Bracket Matrix, Vanderbilt's the top 5 seed. It's Vanderbilt, Arkansas, North Carolina, Tennessee, all in the 5 seed lines in that order. In front of Vanderbilt is Kansas, Alabama, Gonzaga, Virginia. You're going to have those teams drop a game or get knocked out of their tournament early. And then Vanderbilt, I think, will have to beat Tennessee and win at least 1 game in the SEC tournament. I do think it's a possibility. I think Vanderbilt's pretty locked into a 5 seed. I would be shocked if they're anything but a 5 seed, regardless of the outcome. I'm just adding the caveat of a true floor. I think they can be a 6 seed.
Okay.
If they go 0-2. But they're pretty locked in. And to be honest, there is a difference, 100%. But we talked about this beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure the metrics would disagree with me in some matter. So somebody disprove this. If you are a 5 seed, you are going to be playing likely the best mid-majors in the country. That's who you're going to be playing as a 5 seed. That's why 5-12s are so common as an upset. If you're a 6 seed, you're either going to be playing one of the top mid-majors in the country, or you're going to be playing one of the last high major conferences in the tournament. I don't know which one's better or worse at this point. And then what's a major difference in the 4 and 5 seeds, or the 4 and the 3 seed you'd be facing in the next round? I don't know. I've kind of lost the sheen of this team can make a run in the tournament. So I've lost a little interest in keeping up with what all is going on across the country with seeding slightly.
Yeah.
There was a scenario where Vanderbilt can still possibly get a first or a double bye in the SEC tournament.
Yeah.
But I think that required Texas to beat Arkansas tonight. I could be wrong in that. Could be very wrong.
I think it was dependent on Arkansas beating Texas.
Oh, it was?
I think so.
Okay. Okay. There was. Okay. From Graham Bacco of Vandy on SI. Just great work for them.
Yeah.
Also, shout out Joey Dwyer.
Shout out
dog.
Big Joe. Big Joey D.
So he tweeted out something great. That was the scenario of how Vanderbilt gets 4th. And I'm just trusting him that this is right. He said how Vanderbilt gets 4th. Vandy beats Tennessee. Missouri loses to Arkansas. Kentucky loses to Florida. Texas loses to at least one of Arkansas and or Oklahoma. So, yes, they needed to lose that one. Vanderbilt will be 4th regardless of whether Texas A&M wins or loses to LSU. Vandy wins a 3-way tie at 11-7 between Tennessee and Texas A&M based on round robin and beating Alabama. Vandy also wins a 2-way tie with Tennessee because it went 1-0 against Alabama while Tennessee went 1-1. So, if Graham is right, there is still a possibility.
That math is mathing.
It is mathing. There is a possibility Vanderbilt can get a double bye. Well, not likely. They need help. That would be intriguing. But then you weigh, is it more beneficial to play relatively lower, less hot competition in the second round of the tournament, or is it more beneficial to get the double bye?
Yeah.
I don't know. Whatever.
Dealer's choice.
But it's something to watch. Something to watch this Saturday and to keep up with. Well, I was going to say tonight, but you're not going to be listening to this until tomorrow, and the games are decided tonight. Whatever. That is it for basketball. Any last things you want to add here? Will you be doing a preview for the Vandy Tennessee game this Saturday? The people want to know. The people are craving the Hack Squad previews. Putting you on the spot.
TBD
on a Hack preview. All right. that is it for basketball, unless you have any last thoughts.
I do not.
All right. Next up, baseball. I know you have some thoughts here. I'm going to recap what has happened since we last recorded. Last episode for baseball was a very positive spirit. Vanderbilt had made their way back into the top 25, had dominated some lower level competition. Power numbers were up. The vibes were decent. I won't say super high, but they were decent. We knew it was low competition. All things have changed. Vanderbilt this weekend played in the Live Like Lou Las Vegas College Classic. Lost all 3 games. Got swept. 0 for 3. Lost to UC Irvine on Friday 4-9. Lost to Arizona on Saturday 1-5. And lost to Oregon on Sunday 4-6. They followed up, the VandyBoys did, that beautiful performance over the weekend with a 4-5 midweek loss to the powerhouse program Central Arkansas. I will say they redeemed themselves ever so slightly tonight/today against Troy. They did win 4-1 in that one. But not the results you want after last episode, the VandyBoys going 1-4. I think they're 8-6 on the year now. Power numbers are still up. Pitching, big question marks around that. There's a great article available on the DoreReport.com that will be a recurring article now from our very own George Barclay.
That was a great article. I loved that.
Called Barclay's 3 Strikes, and it did a phenomenal job breaking down exactly where this baseball team is sitting right now. He wasn't just negative. There were positives in there. There are some positives you've seen.
Yeah.
It's just the negatives outweigh the positives right now, to be honest. So, Trevor, everyone knows out there, I'm not the baseball guy. You're the baseball guy. You've been on Corbin. We're not going to necessarily dive into a big diatribe about Tim Corbin today.
No.
But what are your thoughts about this baseball team right now?
Yeah. And so last week, whenever we were having high vibes, we're like, okay, we like what we're seeing, but small sample size. Can't get too worked up over it yet. I still want to maybe hold on to the spirit of that in a little bit and say, like, still kind of small sample size. But with that being said, I think this baseball team stinks. The pitching is awful. The issue this year, which is a little bit of an anomaly or so thus far, power numbers are up. And strikeouts are a little bit high. I'm okay with that. I'll take that 7 days out of the week. The one thing that Vanderbilt has always been able to hang their hat on is pitching. And this pitching just flat out sucks. Yes, they're dealing with injuries. Does that compound the issue? 100%. But the bullpen is a liability. That's my main concern is the bullpen is a liability. And I don't want to dog the kid. I don't think Fennell's a Friday guy. It seems like thus far, small sample size with Fennell, he's regressed. His command totally lacking, nibbling the corners way too much. For a guy that has, go ahead.
I don't want to interrupt, but it's also like with Fennell, that had to be a question going into the year, which he has great command. And what you're saying, he's nibbling at the corners too much. The command's not great right now. But his fastball tops out at 88 to 90 miles per hour.
Well, and that's what I was going to get at.
Ever be a Friday guy? Like, I mean, I'm sure it can, but
well, no. I know, and that's exactly what I was going to get to. Is like whenever you have a guy that his fastball tops out at high 80s, low 90s. In order to combat that, you're going to have be like a Greg Maddux style pitcher. You're going to have some real junk with your breaking ball, and his breaking balls are flat. He can't find the strike zone with them. It's not compatible with his fastball. I don't want to dog the kid, man, but he's not a Friday guy. He's not. And then going back to the bullpen, man, another guy that has been incredibly concerning, but has also regressed, and a guy that I think Vanderbilt fans and this Vanderbilt staff are really looking forward to having a step forward and being a real stud of the bullpen is Kranzler. He sucked. He's regressed. And also, I don't want to be like hyper negative, but I'm going to keep being hyper negative. Faulkner is not an SEC guy.
I'm not sure what this staff saw in him. I know one of the premium message board questions a couple of weeks ago was about Faulkner, about this kind of sidearm style. The reason guys don't throw like that is because whenever they do, they get fucking hammered. That's why guys don't throw like that. And you got a guy right now that throws like that and has this unconventional approach. And guess what? He's getting fucking hammered. This is not an SEC guy. The bullpen, which we thought going into this season would be a strong suit for the VandyBoys, has just, to be point blank, shit the bed, man. And so that's a lot of the issues with this Vandy team. And it's frustrating because, yeah, they've beat up on lower level competition except for the Central Arkansas team. But it's like any team that has like a couple of D1 guys, like let's use Arizona for an example this past Saturday. Arizona sucks. That's not a good baseball team. But they have a couple of guys who have some D1 talent, and Vanderbilt couldn't win. And I'm not hitting the panic button yet on the season. I'm not. But if I was to give a forecast for this baseball team going into conference play, if things continue the way they are, I think this could get really, really ugly. And I'm going to make a prediction. If this keeps going, this is not an NCAA tournament team. And if this keeps up, Vanderbilt will miss the NCAA tournament for the first time in 19 years? Yeah.
I don't think panic button pressing at this point in the season, or the opposite, whatever you would call that.
Yeah.
Where you're like, this team's going to Omaha. I don't think either of those are valid at this point of the year, either direction. But the cracks are showing early on this team. There's plenty of time to turn it around. You're 14 games into the season, and you're not even close to, I mean, you're kind of close, but you're not really that close to conference play yet. There's time to turn it around. That's why you added the caveat of if things keep going the way they are, because there is hope that is held out on this podcast that things are going to turn around. But if you're just projecting the trajectory they're going right now, that's not a bad hot take.
Yeah.
At all.
Well, and two, here's the thing. Like I know the batters have hot streaks and they go into slumps and they bust out of either or. I think the same can be said to pitchers for maybe an extent, but not really. I think whenever it comes to pitchers, like the guys you got are the guys you got. And the thing is with college baseball is there's no, you can't sign anybody right now. There's no trade deadline. The guys you got in the pen are the guys that you're going to have to throw out there every single game. And if Kranzler was one of your number one guys going into the season, I don't know. It feels like this team might go overboard.
We'll see. I'm sure we'll have some premium message board questions about baseball. Not a ton of premium message board questions this week. So this should be a quick segment too after the TDR cocktail break. But everybody out there, grab yourself a delicious hot or cold. I'd recommend cold with the current weather we're having. Beverage, and we will be right back after the TDR cocktail break. Welcome back from the TDR cocktail break, and welcome back into episode 356. We've already gone over football, women's basketball, men's basketball, baseball. It is now time to answer premium message board questions and close out episode 356. Don't have a ton this week. Light load, then I was going to have to pause myself. Not a ton of questions this week, so should be relatively quick. First up from your boy Cooper. Give me a reason to have hope for the baseball team. I'll give mine early. The power looks solid early, and that's been what Vanderbilt fans have been complaining about for a long time, is this team has no power. Teams with power win. Well, this team early seems like they have more power than teams in the past. So maybe pitching, can get it together. This is not my actual thoughts. This is me trying to pitch to you why this team's going to be better. That's my pitch. It's not a great one.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. They have power.
Brody Johnston.
Guys, I'm going to be honest, man. I think this team sucks. Like, I said I'm not hitting the panic button, actually. I'm going to take that back. I'm probably going to hit the panic button. This team sucks.
It's a perfect transition because World's Strongest Vandy fans question is, panic button has been pressed. And it's a gif of Yoshi from Mario hitting a hammer into the screen. Can't lose in a regional if we don't make one. So we talked about before the cocktail break.
Yeah.
How much longer do we endure the torment of a lukewarm program? Is the 2026 class enough to right the ship? Or is the ship sailed and now just making the postseason is a celebration? Is the VandyBoys as a program/brand sustainable in a post-Corbin world, whenever that is? Seems as if a lot of our older fans feel as if the program lives and dies by Corbin. And I feel as if the alumni won't allow that to happen, considering how connected to the program they stay. He said, Edit originally posted this before the Central Arkansas loss. Sign of the end times. Candace Story Lee got to make a hard call after the season. So I know you probably have thoughts on that. The edit there. So there was the conversation that has been had, and we talked about this last season of, I will never, ever be on the fire Tim Corbin train. You can't get me there. You just can't. Now, that's an exaggeration. If he missed 3 straight postseasons starting with this season, then you could maybe get me there. The difference is Tim Corbin didn't take a successful program and continue the success. He took a bad program and made it the premier brand in all of college baseball. I think you're past, the reason I say that is I think you're past the point of getting rid of Corbin and just continuing on the brand's power and success. I think that ship has already sailed to some extent in the NIL era. So I don't know if the 2026 class has anything to do with it. Trevor, you might have a more extreme take. I'm disappointed. I think the party is over, for lack of a better term, with the VandyBoys baseball being the it program. It happens. The it program transitions. But as far as Corbin and a hard call by Candace Story Lee, I won't be there. It's going to take a while for me to get there. And it's especially not going to happen after a disappointing regional exit where Vanderbilt was the #1 overall seed in the entire country. It's not going to happen after one season from that. It's just not for me. But the ship has sailed. So I kind of agree. The ship has sailed. That it's over in that aspect. There's still a great brand and program. And what Corbin has done is great. And that's just one part of his question. His question extended further, and we can maybe go into the second part in a sec.
How do I say this? I've been on the I think it's time for Corbin to hang it up train. I'm not backing off that. I'm on that train more than ever. However, whenever it comes to Candace Story Lee having to make a hard call, she is in the worst position ever to where even if he continues to totally shit the bed, I don't know if you can fire him. I don't know if it's possible to fire him, if that makes sense. And I think he'd have to step down of his own volition. Even though I would like for him to, whether he steps down of his own volition or be let go by Candace Story Lee, whichever, the game's passed him by. I don't care how he gets out. But I don't know if Candace Story Lee, it's like firing Dabo. Can Clemson's AD
and even
really fire Dabo?
Clemson is even different than the VandyBoys in Vanderbilt baseball. Clemson had success. Clemson had Bobby Bowden. They had success before Dabo. Tim Corbin is Vanderbilt baseball, and it's another part that I've heard discussed. And it's not that I disagree with it. And I've heard discussed, well, after the season, or if this season goes poorly and then another season, then it's time to have the conversation and mutually agree for Tim Corbin to step down and retire. And I agree with that. However, it's presented as if that's just an option that Candace Lee can press. Do you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, just have a conversation with him and make him, and he just retires and mutually part ways, as if that's just a given that can happen. That would be like saying, well, why do we even have these conflicts and economic wars and real wars with these countries? Why don't we just sit down with them and just come to a mutual agreement? Why don't we just do that? Like, obviously that's an exaggeration, but that's kind of the same idea. It's like, yeah, if that can happen, that's the best case scenario. I don't know if that's a possibility.
Yeah.
Tim Corbin seems like a man that doesn't want to burn it all down behind him. But at the same time, he's still highly competitive and wants to keep doing what he's been doing for his entire life. So he's not just going to say, yep, had a bad season. I did, make 19 NCAA tournaments in a row. Had one season where I didn't make it. And that hasn't even happened yet. But yeah, I'm just going to hang it up. That's probably not how Tim Corbin is coded.
Yeah.
That's not how you become Tim Corbin. So it's somewhere in the middle. The other part of this question was, is the VandyBoys as a program brand sustainable in a post-Corbin world? To an extent, yes. I mean,
I think it is.
Vanderbilt's a premier program now in baseball. VandyBoys and that brand has weight behind it, regardless of who's at the helm. Now, the next hire after Corbin is insanely important.
Yeah.
But Vanderbilt's elevated their brand. They have a large window where this is still a premier program after Corbin. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be sustained into eternity. It could be a one-off. But yes, it can be continued if the right hire is made, in my opinion.
Yep, I agree. Totally.
Next question, unabridged. Flash forward. The baseball team is holding up a Natty trophy. What went right the rest of the season? What changes were made? This is kind of similar to the Hope thing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the bullpen gets their shit together, and Fennell finds his command, and just the overall pitching staff gets healthy.
Dude, I'm not the baseball guy, but you want to know my answer to that question?
What?
Vanderbilt has two pitchers that start throwing over 95 miles per hour. Two additional pitchers. That's how this team is holding an Natty trophy. And that's not going to happen. So I'll go out on a limb.
Or Fennell turns into Greg Maddux.
I want to clip this, and I want to be put on blast. This team is not winning a national championship this year.
Under no circumstances.
Absolutely not happening at all. I think the Vanderbilt basketball team this season has a better chance of winning a national championship than the Vanderbilt baseball team this year. And Vanderbilt basketball is not winning a national championship this year.
Yeah, I agree.
Yet another Dore lawyer. Corbs is absolutely a lot of baseball questions today. People are fired up about what they've seen. Corbs is absolutely a legend, and his statue should be built outside the Hawk. He said statute. That being said, it's that lawyer talk. He just has statutes on the brain. That being said, when does the conversation begin about who may be the best or not the best for the future of the program?
Brother, I've been having that conversation for a couple of years now.
You were crucified.
And people have raked me over the coals for having this conversation. I've been having this conversation for at least 2 years now. And people have called me every name under the sun.
Of Vanderbilt sports, you are Michael Burry in The Big Short. You're not wrong. You were just
just early.
You were just early. And then somebody else.
I'm just in my office playing my drums.
The difference is nobody's coming in to yell at you and say they're the same thing.
Yes.
You were just right.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can look back and Vanderbilt's turned it all around.
Yeah, hopefully we can all look back and be like, man, what an idiot.
What
Trevor
a stupid premium message board segment of episode 356 that was. But I don't see it.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm not even to the extreme that some people are like, I think they'll make. I still have hope, and they will make the postseason, and they're not going to be horrible, but they're just not that good. They're just not. They're a middle of the pack SEC team at best. Next up, G Barks 24. I have a basketball crowd engagement idea. Got a little basketball mixed in. During close games and games we're winning, the game's ops folks should blast Dierks Bentley's Gold. The chorus is a perfect segue to a black gold chant. They could even put black and gold on the Jumbotron and enlarge each one when it's time to yell black or gold. The key would be to only use this is close games or when we're winning so as not to kill the vibe and the meaning. What do you guys think of this idea? It was the most organic one I could come up with based on actual Vanderbilt chants. Number one, I know my immediate answer to this. Stop doing the anchor down chant.
I hate that chant.
Never been a thing. It will never be a thing. It doesn't flow well. Fans are confused by it. Do the black and gold chant. Fans are familiar with it. It's been a thing for a long time. Why in the world is Vanderbilt basketball trying to start anchor down as a back and forth chant? I think football might have tried it once. I could be wrong.
I think they did.
That will never click. It's not good. Vanderbilt already has the back and forth. Other schools have it as well. MIZ, ZOU.
Yeah.
Most schools have it.
We literally
Vanderbilt's is black, gold.
or the who you with.
VU. That's it. The anchor down thing is just bad. So that's my number one. Anything other than that. And also shout in basketball has not been as successful.
No, shout in
football.
football
Shout
is erotic.
It should be I get why they would try. I'm not even mad about them trying to transition that to basketball. I completely get it. But it feels like that didn't land the same way.
Yeah.
Football has created a new tradition that will live on for years and years and years and hopefully forever.
Yeah.
Doesn't work the same for basketball. So I like the idea of trying to create something new inside of Memorial. I don't know that song that well, so I can't really say. I'm not listening to a ton of Dierks Bentley in my spare time, to be honest.
I think that could be a great Vanderbilt
but I
song.
like the idea. I like it.
I think that could be a great Vanderbilt song.
Is it Trinidad James that has the all gold everything song? That needs to be played more. Why is that not being played more?
I've always wanted Shabba Ranks by A$AP Ferg. One gold tooth like I'm Shabba Ranks.
But why is the all gold everything song not played constantly?
Gold on the Ceiling by the Black Keys?
What are we doing? Let's
on,
get some more
guys.
gold themed songs.
Guys, y'all could contract us for free.
Free. We're just giving you $1 million.
Literally, just listen to the
You
podcast.
would bring in a consulting firm and they would struggle to come up with these ideas. We just gave you 4 ideas.
Yeah, you would go to some big firm off Madison Ave in New York when you could just literally take the 3-minute drive to Charlotte Park and bang on our door and give us an hour. And we'll give you the
We
best
just gave
content
you
ever.
3 songs, a new chant to lead into black and gold, and feedback on a current thing you're trying to do that's not working. And we gave you the little dribbler feedback. I mean,
yeah.
Just also, but the one thing I did forget, glad this reminded me, the Squishmallow promotion.
Oh, yes. They did such a great job.
Vanderbilt did an incredible job with that. I was fully expecting it to be, I had just accepted I was not getting one. I was like, the lines, I was going to get there late. It was a 6 p.m. tip. I didn't get there till like 5:40. Easily able to go and get one before tip. Great job by Vanderbilt with the giveaway. And I don't know who was the one that coordinated it. They just had a whole room and you had a ticket you handed at the front, a whole room with tables wall to wall. And you just walked up, handed a ticket. They handed you a Squishmallow. Great system. Didn't block the gates. Didn't block. It was great job by Vanderbilt. Just had to shout them out. We should on the game day off sometime.
And the way they
shout them out.
The way they decored the hall to where it was like Squishmallow theme, like. I'm going to be honest, y'all. I have no idea what the hell a Squishmallow is until that game. And I remember my girlfriend was like, hey, they're doing a Squishmallow giveaway. Can you please get me one? I was like, yeah, babe, I got you. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck a Squishmallow is. Well, then I saw all the hubbubaloo at Memorial Gym and was like, oh my God. I felt like I was in like an insane asylum, the way that people were like acting over these things. And dude, I Googled it. I'm like, what is a Squishmallow? Apparently, it's like one of the most popular items in America right now. And they routinely, like, you go on squishmallow.com and like you buy one for like they're expensive too. Did you know that? They're like $50.
I did not.
They just gave them away for free. Like limited edition ones. And it was, also, good on Vanderbilt. The CEO of Squishmallow is a Vanderbilt alum.
Yeah, I found that out. I didn't know that before. Next up, from Black Knight Dore. Frankie wouldn't have quit the team if Tanner didn't take the leap he did. Didn't want to be the backup and wanted to be one of the go-to guys. It's likely not the full reason he never returned, but it played a factor. See, I think he went into this knowing he was going to be playing behind Tanner. I think Frankie Collins just saw that I'm going to miss 50, 60% of the season, best case with this injury. And it just so happened to be perfectly underneath the marker you need of games played as a percentage of overall games of the season. I don't think that really had that much to do with it, if we're going to be honest. I mean, if he was a guy that was your number one scorer and player, maybe he would have done everything he could to get back. I don't know. I just think it was the math in his head. And I don't agree with it. I wouldn't have done it as a player. But if we're going to say there's no logic behind it or no way he could have done this, Frankie Collins has no ties to Vanderbilt.
Mm-hmm.
He just transferred in this year. He has the opportunity to next year make an extra couple $100,000 playing basketball.
Yeah.
I don't like it, but I'm also not going to say, oh, that guy's an idiot. That's the opposite of what an idiot would do. It's actually too calculated. That's why people don't like it.
Yeah.
It's too calculated.
Yeah, it was cerebral.
It's too logical, which I'm not saying is a good thing. You should want to play for your team and play with your team regardless of injury. But I don't think that played a factor.
Yeah, I agree.
CF Mr. York. Frankie didn't come back because of money. Someone will give him a bag and he'll play for them. He's a great athlete that's had a string of bad luck with injuries. The next team will probably have some sort of health clause in his contract, and then when that season is done, he'll be done. I get why he's doing it from a business perspective. The game isn't as pure as it once was with the big money contracts. I agree with that to an extent, but I don't know about a bag.
I was going to say, I don't know if you give a bag to a guy that just pulled that.
He will make the difference in a bag. He'll make in the six figures next year. It's going to be low six figures in my opinion, but he will make good money. That's not untrue that he will get a bag,
right.
But yeah, he's not going to be some incredibly highly sought after guy. I mean, he's a point guard that's a good defensive point guard, but can't really score. He's not commanding $800,000 in the open market. He's just not.
Yep. Agreed.
But from a business perspective, that's kind of what I was getting at.
Yeah.
Is it makes sense. Anybody being why in the world? Use your brain. There's a reason. He's not loyal to Vanderbilt. He's not a Vanderbilt fan. That's where people, I think, lose track of things and where college is. Peter Porker, 714. Oh, it's about me. Rumor on the street is Will missed Squishmallow night because he was in Knoxville with his birthday buddy watching UT Junior instead. Care to comment?
I will come to Will's defense this time. Will was in attendance for Squishmallow night. There are photos on the internet to prove that.
And also the funnier part of that is I do have another buddy that's a Georgia fan that lives here, and he actually initially invited me to the game and was like, I have an extra ticket. You want to come with me? And I was like, I do. But the optics on this would be horrible. It was the opposite of the situation. I was not planning on going. And then I got offered free tickets. And so I was like, I can't. And thank God for Brian Carlson, who took me out of that horrible optics situation. So, side note, no one look up UT Junior was in Knoxville last week. I don't know what that means. Next up, from 256 Dore, we have a big range of SEC finishes. What are our Saturday men's basketball rooting interests? We already kind of went over that.
Yep.
So if you've listened to the episode, you've already actually heard that scenario. Should I repeat it? Just for the hell of it?
Yeah, if you'd like.
Let me find it in my bookmarks on Twitter. And this is courtesy, once again, of Graham Bacco of Vandy on SI. Big fans of Vandy on SI here. So the scenario is Vandy has to beat Tennessee, obviously. And then Missouri loses to Arkansas, Kentucky loses to Florida, and then Texas already lost to Arkansas. So you just need those two or three things to happen. Vandy's got to win, number one. Missouri has to lose to Arkansas. Kentucky has to lose to Florida. That's how Vanderbilt gets a double bye in the SEC tournament. Pretty simple now, but not easy. Let's see what we got. There's two more, but they look like responses. Peter Borker, in response to Vandy's holding up a natty trophy, said, most reasonable answer that you probably didn't get from the boys. Every part of the U.S. except Nashville, Omaha, and wherever Marist University is mysteriously disappeared. That's kind of actually what we answered and said. Unabridged, last part of this says, in response to that, I know you're joking, but I still think at the end of the year, this baseball team is a tournament team. Most likely not a host, but a low 2, high 3. That's kind of where I sit. I think they will still be a tournament team, but not where you want this team to be sitting, and definitely a step back from where they've been in years past.
Yeah.
All right. That is all for premium message board questions. We have had a beefy episode 356. Anything else you want to add here, Trevor?
I'm dreading doing my homework.
I'm dreading editing this. So, for myself, Will Byrum, and my co-host, Trevor Hulan, this has been episode 356 of the Dore Report, powered by 615 Collectibles.